Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We want to welcome to the first EIT Culture Creativity Infoday today. So, yeah, let's start. Today we have a very packed up agenda with starting now at 10, and we will hope to finalize by 1 CET. And this is an overview of the contents that we will see today. So I'll do this first introduction, a bit of the agenda and housekeeping. We will progress with the introduction to EIT Culture and Creativity, so you have a bit of context of what is this that we are building together. We will move on directly to general conditions of the calls, then the contents of each of the calls. We will give you a glimpse of the evaluation process and how to apply. Towards the end of the session, apparently I lost the mic, so I will just quickly go again, saying that we have a very packed up agenda in which we will give you an overview of what is EIT Culture and Creativity, the general conditions, the contents of the call, the evaluation and how to apply process, and towards the end of the session we will have questions and answer. We will pick up some of your questions. It's not moving the slides. Okay, so here we go with the housekeeping things. So we will want to let you know that 1,016 participants registered to this event. We are super grateful for your interest in our calls and in our activities. Just to give you an idea of where these participants come from, please note that the vast majority, 86%, comes from EU27, but we also have people registered from all corners of the world, including Asia, from locations such as Mongolia and Indonesia, and also from America, from American continent. We have people from Peru and different countries in Africa. So you are also very welcome. And just in terms of housekeeping, please note that you can post your questions online. You can see in your panel of control a place exactly just to set your questions. We will collect those offline, and then we will, towards the end of the session, address them as much as we can with the time we have. Then we will have a 10-minute break around 11:20, maybe a bit before, maybe a bit after, but we will have this break for us to recharge batteries. And finally, know that this session will be recorded in its entirety so that then you can consult it in our website. So with this introduction, I can only give start the event, and I would like to show you our first video.
Today, like never before, humankind is facing unforeseen challenges. Reality demands new solutions, and it takes new thinking to find them. We believe the front door to innovation is diversity. When diverse perspectives meet, new ideas come to life as solutions that will define the future vision of Europe. That's why we are here to empower the next generation of innovators, to speed up creativity by supporting creative minds and connecting them with businesses, universities, investors, researchers, leaders, and the general society in radically new ways. Creativity is the connecting tissue across borders. Collaboration is the blood flowing through it. And we are the heart pumping, thriving within Europe, ideas that move the world forward. Creatives without borders. Innovation without limits.
So,
okay.
Welcome from my side. My name is Bernd Fesel. I'm the interim Chief Executive Officer of this forthcoming EIT Culture and Creativity. It is a great pleasure to have you here and to give you a short introduction of what this is about. Let's see if I have the screen already. No. Some of you might have seen this presentation already. But really happy to bring us all on one page again and have a shared vision what the EIT Culture and Creativity is about to start. If we have a start of the software. Maybe Patricia, you just click for me.
You can click and have the control. If not working, we move it for you, Ben.
Yeah, please move it now. So what is EIT Culture and Creativity about? So let us one step back and just see again, what is a knowledge and innovation community? It is a European partnership institutionalized under the Horizon Europe program and has been started in 2008 when the EIT, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, was founded and created in Budapest. Since then, there have been 8 of those knowledge and innovation communities created, starting on the challenge of climate, then digital food. You see those 8 here, and now it is number 9, the EIT Culture and Creativity coming in. An innovation community is based on the concept of the EIT called the knowledge triangle, bringing together education, innovation, and business as the basis of this intersection for a thriving innovation ecosystem. Those numbers show you what has been achieved by the EIT for all KICs together, some 3,000 stakeholders, from companies, higher education, research centers, and also city regions and NGOs. Now, what is our KIC about? The EIT Culture and Creativity. Sorry, my screen just is gone. Patricia? I need, yes, thank you.
One
My
second,
screen back.
sorry.
So what is our innovation community, the EIT Culture and Creativity, about? Next slide, please. It is about to support our sectors, the culture creative industries, to be a game changer for the green, digital, and social transformations. We want to do this by unlocking the hidden value of our sectors, namely supporting the small, micro, and medium-sized organizations in our sectors, which form some 90% of the stakeholders. You might know we have 3,000 companies, we have thousands of cultural institutions, and the smaller ones are the ones we want to bring to the innovation community of the European Union and open these new opportunities for them. Many of them have never applied before to a Horizon Europe program, and maybe many of you here in the room haven't either. And so the message really for you is we have designed those calls for you also on an administration level to make applications easier. We not only bring the small and many to the table as a new force for innovation, but also a substantial value, the value added of some 450 billion euros every year, creating innovations already, now focusing and putting them on focus to the green, digital, and social transformation. You might also say contribute to the Green Deal and the transformation of Europe as a carbon-free continent by 2050. We as a consortium also bring to the table an outreach. We designed in the application phase our partnership in a way to reach out to visitors and citizens, because we all know the green transformation is not just done by businesses. They are mostly done by citizens and customers taking up new trends and living it daily with buying different products and selecting other choices. So we hope to instigate this behavioral change, and for this we have designed a partnership which reaches out to some 250 million people every year in the venues of our partnership. This partnership is an open partnership. It is a next generation of knowledge and innovation community by its openness, for example, to individuals, artists, professionals, students, to single persons, to the really small ones. Its governance and also its membership schemes are designed for this. And we take the whole diversity of our sector. This means also the profit and the non-profit, and you see this here on the left side, what we call the extended knowledge triangle. So it's not only about education, research, and business, but also the cultural institutions, the cultural heritage institutions, but also the civil society initiatives, grassroots activities, as well as the public authorities in rural, regional, city, and national levels. Our partnership is a growing partnership. You can apply to be a member starting in 24. And we designed membership in a way to offer you benefits through services. So membership is attractive even without funding. Always keep in mind, an innovation and community like this one has a seed funding from the European Union and then has to earn more funds on its own. So it's also about investing and finding partners who invest. And for this reason, we designed an innovation community which gives you value even if you don't win funding. I know we are all here to generate and to apply for funding, but please keep this in mind. This is the wider benefit, creating new encounters beyond funding of the EIT to create values and benefits for you beyond. So we published our membership scheme on our website. You can have a look there. We designed special fees for individuals and organizations, also located in risk-eligible countries in EU 13, because we all know that €1,000 in Varna is a different value than in Helsinki, and this is taken care of to be as open and inclusive across the whole of Europe as possible. On the next slide, we show you on the whole of Europe, we have a local presence reaching from Barcelona over Amsterdam, Helsinki, Košice in Slovakia, almost Ukraine, to Vienna and Bologna. Those are regional centers covering several nations, across nations and regions on purpose, to really support collaboration. Those are the meeting places where startups, students, researchers, investors, policymakers can mix, meet, and mingle and create new values hands-on, besides, of course, the digital meeting space this KIC will also have. So now looking back a step, what are we talking about if we say we support the cultural creative sectors and industries? Just to remind you, the very first report on the economic value of culture was just published in 2008, and since then its definition has been evolving. There are different definitions from cities and nations, and this EIT Culture and Creativity takes a broad approach to this definition based on the definition of the European Parliament, about 2018, to really include the full diversity of stakeholders. So it's not only about the variety of sectors, but also about integrating the market-orientated approach and the non-market. So it is as much about a library or a public broadcaster as it is about a small film producer or a privately owned dance company, to create the diversity not only along sectors, but all types of organizations. Next slide. When we talk about supporting innovation, we also need to have a concept what we understand when we talk about innovation. First of all, for us, it is innovations applied, ideas applied to market, to society, and introduced quite quickly. So we are differently than the innovation support you find usually with Horizon Europe, which is research-based, not so close to market. Here it is really about implementing ideas and bringing them to life as quick as possible to have a hands-on change in markets, societies, in communities. And we do so by taking innovation also holistically. We all know innovation is usually defined by the OECD as a tech and business-driven innovation. We add here the artistic, the social, and also the policy innovation. That means also innovation in frameworks and regulations to have a real holistic concept. And secondly, to note, cultural creative industries has been always a driver for innovation in other sectors. Just take a typical mobile like this. Is it tech? Is it content? It is, of course, both. Where did it start? What kind of regulations enable to have global content markets in our hands? All this plays together. And so we support innovation within our sectors, but also across beyond. We support spillover effects, and for this, we look also for cross-fertilization within our sectors, but also beyond, for example, in the field of health, or cities, climate developments, and many other areas. While we're having our DNA as a diversity, having all 15 sectors, for the first years now, we decided to focus on high impact areas. This does not mean that this is exclusive and we only look for projects in those high impact areas, but this would be our priority if we would have a wish. And this is our wish. So those high impact areas are really driven by our belief, and I think all our belief, that we have to prevent climate change and that we have to work for the Green Deal to really save the planet and enable a sustainable life for everybody. This means to overcome fast fashion. This means to reduce the carbon footprint some 37% over the whole of Europe from architecture and construction. It means to look into the green footprint of streaming and media. Fourth, it is about redesigning industry products and design thinking to have products which are better sustainably. There is an eco-design directive constantly being extended to more branches, and so design and redesign is our fourth pillar. And last but not least, all around us is cultural heritage, if immaterial or material. It is being attacked, of course, by the climate crisis we have, but it is at the same time a solution provider to change society based on the identity of cultural heritage to present new solutions, and of course also do this in cultural heritage sites, which are in themselves relevant businesses, non-profit business, and a great source of income for cities, regions, and nations. In these five impact areas, we are looking to support education programs, novel higher education programs. We look into supporting innovation projects with new products and services closer to market. We look for businesses and ventures, not only startup business, as you might know this from venture capital startups, but also startups and founders which are driven by the specific business models from the cultural creative industries, organic growth on its own income, for example. But there can be many other also from philanthropic funding. And of course, we also look into supporting scale-ups into global markets. Last but not least, we will support initiatives to strengthen cultural identities and values. And finally, we have some flagship initiatives like the Investment Forum or like the Policy Club to create a sustainable impact for the ecosystem as a structure. Now I'm kind of diving deeper into the next chapter already, showing you our strategic objectives and its action programs. We have 5 of them in education, innovation, creation, in society, and in system. And in each of those objectives, we designed 2 action programs each. And I'm happy now to hand over to my colleague to introduce you more in detail and look forward to our collaborations in the future. Claudia, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Bernd. And next slide, please. Hello, I'm Claudia Jericho. I'm the Interim Chief Operations Officer, and I'm very glad and honored to start introducing you now to our first calls for proposals, our first invitation to you to become part of the ecosystem of EIT culture and creativity. So the next chapter is about the calls, their context, and their conditions. And we will give you some insights, some details, and some perspectives on how to look at it, to provide a common understanding on what we mean when we're calling for activities for our first business plan 24 and 25. So when we look at the next slide, what we sum up under general conditions is actually really the idea behind EIT Culture and Creativity. And the idea is building EIT Culture and Creativity together with you, together with the ecosystem. So what does this exactly mean? We have a budget of almost 14 million planned for 24-25 for these calls. And with that budget, we want to innovate together, perform together, and grow together with you. Meaning, the most important thing to understand here is maybe, and the most unique is, we don't intend a one-time funding. We really strive for sustainability. That means we want to build long-term partnerships addressing sustainability in all ways. That means ecological, social, but also economical, financial. And therefore, we consider our funding as our investment in you, in your activities, our investment in a European ecosystem, in European talent, in European innovations, in companies, in communities, and these will be shaping the ecosystem of EIT Culture and Creativity. So therefore, your proposals need to be fit for the purpose, fit for our portfolio that Bernd just presented. And that means your proposals need to align with the three pillars here. The funded innovations, they need to match certain criteria and conditions for focus and contents. If we want to perform together, we need obviously common targets for impact and outcomes. And if we want to grow together, we need alignment on sustainability and structures that we create together. So if we look at the next slide and have a look at the area of content and which focus to put on in your calls, this is related to the introduction we just got from Bernd. It's related to, for example, the high impact market. So your proposals need to focus on one of the high impact markets. And we have one wildcard. If you look at the call details, you will detect this. And the triple transition needs to be picked up in your proposal as well. The social, digital, or let's say the green, digital, and social transition. So make sure you formulate it in the right way as we require it in the call document. Also, knowledge triangle integration needs to be part of your calls, and meaning innovation, education, and creation needs to play a role, as well as the regional innovation scheme. We quickly had a look on it, and this is a very interesting and exciting innovative program, which was introduced by the EIT in 2014 to boost innovation performance of countries with lower innovation scores. And last but not least, what your proposals need to pick up is diversity, equality, and inclusion. And this aspect has not been only in this call document from the very start, but it has been a major guideline of funding, developing this EIT culture and creativity even before it has been designated. The diversity is one of our key principles and the DNA of culture and creativity. So if we go to the next slide, then we see the performing together aspects, and it's clear we need some targets, and you will hear more from these conditions later in this presentation. Most importantly, of course, key performance indicators, so everything that will be reached, every qualitative aspect needs to be broken down in numbers. These you have to report to us, we have to report to the European Commission, to the EIT. So the second one is also very important, as outreach of activities is obviously an important success factor. And the third is also related to branding, ensuring the label of EIT, the label we give out for masters and doctoral programs, already introduced with the other kicks, meets the high criteria of EIT, standing for excellence of education, for example. So if we go now to the last chapter of growing together, the conditions for sustainability and structures, meaning the mechanisms we develop together, the structures that determine our cooperation, that is referring to financial sustainability, intellectual property and ownership, and these will be touched upon in a minute by our CFO. But quickly on the member schemes, we have heard about them, but this is really the formal sign you will be part of this ecosystem, you are part of this ecosystem. So we invite you, we expect, we require that you will really become also a formal part of our ecosystem by becoming a member. But note, this is not a prerequisite for funding, but it means you will, after you have granted the funding, you will become a member of our ecosystem. So more on the aspects of financial sustainability comes now from Mehjabeen, our CFO. Please, over to you, Mehjabeen, and the next slide.
Thank you very much, Claudia. That's great. Hi, everyone. I'm Mehjabeen Patrick, and I'm the Interim Chief Finance and Investment Officer here at EIT Culture and Creativity. I'm going to take next few minutes to really outline our sort of understanding and our requirement around financial sustainability and other aspect Claudia just outlined in terms of growing together. Now, for some of you, financial sustainability mechanisms built into a grant might be completely new, and to some of you, you might have already come across that. But this is something that EIT has been sort of implementing over the last few years with other kicks. And as a knowledge innovation community, we are here not just to distribute grants to our ecosystem, but really support that ecosystem to use those grants to create financially viable products and financially viable organizations. Therefore, we have built in financial sustainability as part of our grant funding to partners who will be coming and applying for various calls that we have put out. Financial sustainability mechanisms are basically ways in which we expect the applicants to build in a mechanism through which returns are generated for the project and for the applicant organizations, but are also shared with the EIT Culture and Creativity. We are asking all applicants to have a real think about what those financial sustainability mechanisms can be in their particular projects, and are encouraging them to come forward with the mechanism that suits their project and their particular organization in the best possible way, and can really guarantee or at least aim to create returns that can be then shared with EIT Culture and Creativity. As the call document outlines, we are not dictating what those mechanisms can be, because they will be different for different projects. But we have listed few examples of what types of mechanisms are being used and can be suitable for the type of calls we have put out. You will get more detail. You actually have more detail of those mechanisms in the call document. But very briefly, the areas that we can look into in sort of applying those mechanisms are revenue share agreements. So if you are creating a product that is generating revenue, or a service that is generating revenue, one mechanism that you can propose is sharing revenue from the successful exploitation of those products and services with the IT culture and creativity. We can also look at equity share in the SMEs and businesses that are being created or are part of those consortiums that are coming forward and are part of the project. Equity share in those businesses can also be a good way of ensuring financial returns for EIT culture and creativity. IP ownership and exploitation. I will explain a little bit more about IP ownership and exploitation, but that is another good mechanism to ensure returns back to the cake. And of course, lump sum success fee. If your project and your innovation is successful, you might want to propose a lump sum repayment of success fee to the cake to sort of fulfill that condition. And last but not least, another example of such sort of mechanisms can be sponsorship. If your project is such where a sponsorship is a good way of generating some returns, then that can also be considered. As I said, this is not an exhaustive list. There are other ways in which you could propose ways of sharing returns. We are very open and happy to listen to those and work around them in the best possible way that suits both sides of the equation. Next slide. So I touched upon intellectual property and ownership of IP and exploitation of IP. This is a very important part of our call and will form a very important part of your application as well. As it's very obvious, there's all projects and most projects that are coming to us will involve some kind of IP sort of arrangements. Projects may come with background IP, and the ownership of background IP is not impacted. Whoever owns the background IP will retain the ownership of that background IP, even if they're part of this project, and applicants are required to explain or disclose what is the status of the background IP. Any IP that is created as part of the project is owned by the applicants. The ownership rests with the applicants. Any IP that is created as part of the project, and CIC expects those applicants and the consortiums to have a very clear plan of how that IP will be exploited, how that IP will be taken to market and income will be generated. So exploitation rights are really important part of your application, and please do explain how do you plan to use your efforts to actually take those take the resulting innovation to market. Intellectual property from third parties may be involved in some of your projects, so please be very mindful of the implication of using third-party IP and be very clear on how that is going to impact your project and how that can be sort of taken care of while you deliver your project. I'm sure there are lots of other questions on that, and we will be very happy to answer them, and more detail will be available through various means, and there's more detail on both financial sustainability mechanisms and IP in our call document and in the model agreements that are uploaded as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mehjabeen. So you see, we have ambitious expectations, but we believe no less is needed facing all the global challenges. And we are addressing those in our calls, always striving for the next European top business models and innovation with and by culture and creative sectors and industries. So what does that exactly mean for our calls? How do they look in detail? But before we dive into them, let's have a look at our general call portfolio. So it is obviously developed along the value chain, along the culture and creative value chains, building on the knowledge triangle. You see education, innovation, and creation, and it is extended to society because this is a really important pillar. Civil society will contribute to make the change happen. And while you are now aware, we have 5 strategic objectives and 10 action programs. In these first calls, we are focusing on the first essential areas to put forward. So the first area is education, and please move to the next slide to have a look at the overview of this strategic objective number 1. So here we want to address European talent and talents by creative skilling and upskilling and innovative capacity building. And as we know, innovation is also important for education. We're building on diversity here as well, focusing on interdisciplinary education programs for future-proofing the skill sets of students and professionals in the culture and creative sectors, but we want to extend other competencies like design, thinking, creative thinking to other areas as well. So we have two calls in this education pillar. One is looking at academic education here, now focusing first on masters. And we have 2 strands in the first call, and we have a second call focusing on vocational training, on lifelong learning programs. So when we dive now into the first call on the next slide, this is building on existing masters. This is building on your already existing great practices and ideas, enhancing them, developing them further, bringing in European aspects, new aspects, transversal skills in different areas. So you have to choose one of the areas of future skills and technologies, societal transformation, ethical and sustainable entrepreneurship, or creativity as a skill for innovation. We have a maximum grant per year, and this is running, the funding is running for 3 years. That means it's 900K in total, and 1 year should be dedicated to develop the program and 2 years to deploy the program. And then after 3 years, it will be a scrutiny whether this program is continuing. And keep in mind, here we're talking about a label program. So you have to have a careful look in the EIT labeling handbook, as well as for the second call. In this first call, it's a handbook for academic labeling when you develop this. So this is the first strand, and the second strand, which is only first strand is addressing 3 or funding 3 programs, whereas the second strand is just funding 1 project. And this is about a new master's program. This is our first pilot to really develop our first EIT labeled culture and creativity masters, also addressing interdisciplinary aspects. And here, especially the knowledge triangle comes in even more. Also, aspects of the new European Bauhaus should be connected. So we're always synergizing with European programs, here the new European Bauhaus, and also here look at one of the following areas to focus on. Here we have a higher maximum grant, and as it said, it's always a maximum. You don't have to apply, of course, but you can apply for 500,000. And if we have 4 years, this is obviously 2 million. And here 2 years are dedicated for the development and 2 years for the deployment. And again, there will be a scrutiny whether it's worth keeping on doing this program and proceeding with that master. So if we have a look at the common aspects on the next slide of these 2 academic strands, we will see different aspects, and they will be touched upon also later a little bit more in detail, but you always have requirements on the constellation of the consortium. here obviously must be coordinated by a higher education institution. We always have mandatory and optional KPIs in our calls. And the mandatory are come with a target, a concrete number, and here you see 25 students graduating. It's not participating, so obviously more might need to participate to have a 25 graduating students. So the optional KPIs, they should be brought in. They might be taken into consideration for the evaluation if we may have to make a critical decision. So it's always good to pick up the optional KPIs. It's always also good to meet the encouraged co-funding, but it's not compulsory here as you read. We display the evaluation criteria, and you will see in the calls we have it much more in detail. So please find yourself an orientation on how to develop and conceptualize your masters by looking at the call criteria and looking at how to can score best. This call, both calls are a one-step application process, and also what that means will be touched upon later, but shortly you will hand in a full proposal, not just an expression of interest, which is for the two-step, but a full proposal directly. If we look at the next call, the call 2. Call 2 is on vocational training. On the next slide, please. And this is about, well, upgrading the skills of CCSI professionals. And here again, you have some criteria you have to meet for this continuing professional development courses that we expect 4 independent modules. And again, you should pick one of the thematic areas: digital, data-driven methods, business skills, sustainable development, or design-based thinking. And you can receive a maximum grant of 250K for 2 years. And again, there will be a scrutiny. So we intend, as I described before, we intend you to really become a long-term sustainable partner of the ecosystem. So of course, we intend to continue all these programs, but you need to meet certain thresholds. You need to meet the KPI, obviously, and then it's possible to continue the programs. Again, we're talking about an EIT labeling here. For non-degree courses, also have a careful look at the handbooks that are available via our call document and the FAQ on the EIT website. And you have to meet, of course, some other aspects like the International Standard Classification of Education, ICSED, and also other aspects. Please have a careful look. We look for 120 graduates here, so quite a high threshold. More participants will be needed, obviously, then. So I'm sure you will take a careful look at all these details. 5 programs can be funded. And when we now look at the next slide, we will see some other aspects. Again, consortium requirements. Here we need a vocational education and training institution to be the consortium lead. We have mandatory KPIs, again, 120 graduates and optional ones. You can apply for full funding. You can offer co-funding, which might be evaluated positively if 2 proposals probably score the same. We have the evaluation criteria displayed here. And this is now the 2-step application process. So you hand in first an expression of interest. It's quite a short application, around 5 pages, not less, not more than this. And then if you will be evaluated positively, you'll enter the 2nd step, and then you will hand in a full proposal. So next slide sums up the general and common considerations for the education programs. So we have, for the master studies, we need at least 2 countries. This is a common thing for the call one. We need the EIT labeling aspect in the concept already deeply ingrained for both the academic and the vocational training. The partnership, as mentioned, not only there, in all other upcoming calls, partnerships need to represent the knowledge triangle, and the contents need to meet the aspects of the knowledge triangle. You need to include entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial skills. That refers also to the knowledge triangle, and the risk aspect is relevant. So the geographical balance, really putting forward the Central Eastern Europe and Southern Europe areas, this is also relevant. So with that summary of our first strategic objective and its cause, I will finish and hand over to the next strategic objective of innovation. And this is again taken over by Mehjabeen.
Great, thank you very much, Claudia. Hi everyone, me again. So as already highlighted in earlier presentation, our strategic objective 2 tackles the challenge of innovation. Under this objective, we are supporting innovation within culture and creative space, culture and creative sector industries. And we are focusing on really supporting ideas that are coming forward to tackle the major challenges faced by the culture and creative sector. And also, really connected to the global challenges we are facing as a planet, really, whether it is green, whether it is digital, whether it is social transition. So we are really looking for excellent and innovative ideas to come forward, and we are really looking forward to what you guys really have in store to bring forward to this particular part of our call. We are looking at innovation that is close to market. As I was outlining earlier in my when I was talking about financial sustainability, we are as a program of grant funding. This is a very unique program where we are really encouraging projects and ideas that can be financially sustainable, that can be close to market, and that can generate revenue in the long run, and can really bring the economic impact as well as social and cultural and creative impact to the applicants and to the sector overall. As outlined by Bernd earlier, we are overall, as a KIC over the next few years, we are focusing on 5 high impact markets, and they become quite important for this particular call, which is very evident. Those 5 markets are architecture, audiovisual, cultural heritage, design, and fashion and textile. More information on what type of projects, what type of innovation we are looking for is in the call document. But those are the areas where we feel there is ability for high impact from our grant funding. So projects in those areas are hugely welcome. However, we also believe that some innovation are not as easy to box into certain subsectors or certain verticals. So under this call, we have also allowed a wild card entry as well. As a KIC, we will have the right to support 1 or 2 projects that are not fitting those 5 markets, and we are naming them as wild card. And so if there's any innovation that you feel is really critical and touch all the various aspects of what we as a KIC and the EIT Culture and Creativity is looking for, then please do put those forward as well. We are looking to support 10 projects within this particular call at 500K per project per year. This is a 1-year call, so your project must start and end within 2024. and we are looking for innovation that can come to market within 24 months of the start of the project. So 1 year to finish the project, and then another 12 months to bring the project to market and generate revenues. We are just elaborate on the type of innovation we are looking for. It is definitely innovation in terms of products and services, but it is also about processes, also about innovation in business models. So it is quite a broad spectrum of innovation we are looking to support through this particular call. It definitely requires as with the other calls, the consortium needs to be a minimum of 2 partners from the knowledge triangle, but one of the partner has to be an SME, and sort of, you know, make sure that this is not just research institutions and educational institutions, but also the SMEs are included in this partnership, so the close to market element can be taken care of. We will be looking for projects that are very clear on go-to-market strategy for their innovation, and very clear on which partner is going to be taking responsibility for go-to-market strategy of their innovation. We are really keen that the aspect of the innovation and how the IP is exploited is actually very clear in your project, and it's not just about innovation and how that is going to go to market. As I was talking earlier about the IP right and ownership, IP definitely resides with the project owners, but EIT Culture and Creativity has sort of ability to license those IP if it is not exploited and you know, we feel that it can be taken to market in other ways if exploitation is not possible within the desired time frame. I think in our documents, in our detailed sort of information section, you will see that we want to make sure that within the 4 years of the start of project, there's some exploitation of IP, and if it is not exploited, we will expect partners to come up with a proposal how it can be transferred to other partners, or what other ways in which the exploitation can happen. As you can see, I'm putting a lot of emphasis on exploitation of IP and actually taking the innovation to market. So make sure that is quite clear in your projects. I think that was it on the detail of Breakthrough Lab. I'm sure there will be other questions which we'll try and answer during the Q&A section, and I can see some questions are already coming up, so we will try and tackle those in the Q&A. The strategic objective 3 around creation, you heard already from Bernd and Claudia that under this objective we want to support the capacity of supporting businesses. We want to make sure that creative and culture businesses in Europe have an ecosystem and a support structure that can really encourage creation of new businesses and actually growth and scaling of those businesses. And under this particular objective, we will be supporting business support organizations and providers of acceleration and innovation support to really provide that service to the SMEs and the creative and culture businesses in Europe. Next slide, please. This particular call has two strands to it. Strand one is, of course, new business and acceleration and incubation programs across Europe, and strand two really focuses on incubation and acceleration with risk involvement as well. We are aiming to support 3 programs under this strand one, with 300K per project per year. We are hoping that the programs the applications that come forward are really tackling the key markets that we are focusing on, but also building on the existing infrastructure and really providing something additional. What this call is not it's not for supporting existing infrastructure and providing the grant as working capital for existing incubation and acceleration programs. So we are really looking for projects that are really providing something additional and really tackling the key issue of incubation and acceleration support for creative and cultural sector. As some of you who are in this space will know that journal incubation and acceleration programs sometimes are not necessarily catering to the needs of culture and creative businesses, and therefore this particular program is really trying to tackle some of those barriers. All these programs must be focused on founders and startups within the creative and cultural space, and they sort of can work with various models of venture creation, of business support for these businesses that will be targeted under these programs. As KIC, we are absolutely in line with our financial sustainability mechanism strategy that I outlined earlier. We'll be looking for some kind of financial return on the investment that is made into these programs, and that can be in form of equity into the businesses that are being supported. And we are very open for suggestions on how that can be implemented, or whether there are other ways in which financial return can be ensured for the KIC. We are also very keen that these programs are sort of aligned very closely with the overall sort of strategy of the KIC, and are labeled as EIT Incubation and Acceleration Program. More support will be given to the applicants on how that is done, but it is quite important that these programs stand out as EIT Culture and Creativity business support and acceleration programs. Next slide, please. Stand 2 is, as the name suggests, is really focusing on risk regions, as Claudia outlined earlier. These are the regions and countries in Europe where the innovation support perhaps has not been as impactful and as effective, and not as taken up as with the rest of Europe. So we are really keen to see sorry, projects coming from that part of the world. We will be supporting one program in risk regions, and we're looking for partners to be sort of coming from that part of the world, and other conditions are largely the same as with strand 1, but really focusing on risk regions. I think I have run out of my time, so I will stop there and hand the mic back to Claudia. Sorry, Patricia. I'm really sorry. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you, Mehjabeen. I will, 1 second, please. Before we go to the last of the calls. So we will have here, mentioned here the last call coming from strategic objective 4, society. This strategic objective intends to show and to harness the potential of CCSI-driven innovation, CCSI stakeholders, CCSI methods and ways of working to harness all of these into addressing social innovation, into addressing social cohesion and building up communities so they take ownership and they take an important role in its own growth and its own development. So in this call, the Community Catalyzer, we want specifically projects that help social cohesion in communities while at the same time addressing local-based and specifically environmental challenges. So basically what we are looking for is networks of 3 organizations, that these networks of course need to be from 3 different EU or associated countries. And the idea is that these organizations join forces and bring CCSI concepts, methods, resources to generate social innovation. So what we are looking for is for these networks to look into place-based challenges, local challenges, and bring civil society or bring local stakeholders into addressing this. So in summary, we want to leverage these creative and cultural approaches to be able, communities to be able to develop, implement innovative solutions. The idea is that these organizations that join forces are working on shared or similar challenges. We want also to demonstrate scalability of these solutions. We want to make sure that whatever you are proposing in your projects can be then taken up by other communities working with similar or shared challenges. Of course, these activities must lead to clear innovations. This means that, and we are talking just to refer to what Mehjabeen was already saying, by innovation we mean goods, we mean products, we mean processes or services that can be scalable and replicable. And of course, activities that contribute to address the local-based environmental challenges. Sorry, I don't know what just happened here. 1 second, we have to go. So I was saying that it's important that all the projects have these. Again, I don't know what's happening here. So here we go for a second. So it's important that all of these activities produce an it's jumping that produce these innovations that can be later in scaled or replicable to other. But please just make sure that when you make your proposal, that you identify and characterize these challenges that you are addressing, as well as the target groups involved. It is important that we get a glimpse of what are the environmental challenges that you are addressing, why are you involving, or why this comes from a grassroots perspective with the target groups that you will be involving, and how these, which are the commonalities or the challenges, the specific challenges that connects all of the organizations in your consortium. Please also demonstrate the capacity to meaningfully engage participants from civil society. For people who have experience in working in EU projects, you might know by now that it is very hard to actually involve communities. So, and having access to them and make them engage. So it is very important that your proposal shows in a credible way how your target groups are going to be involved in these activities, and of course, why these are important target groups for your activity. Also, please make sure that you are putting appropriate measures to make sure that you're lowering potential barriers for access. Mind that we're talking here about social cohesion. So there's an implication that you are bringing in diversity, diverse group of target groups, different challenges, different needs, and this could be basically in any dimension. So make sure that within your project you also demonstrate in a credible way how are you lowering potential barriers so that the target groups can effectively cooperate and work together in these challenges. We are asking the scope of the project to be for about 250,000 euro per year, and projects will have a maximum duration of 1 year. The idea is that the projects begin in 2024 and end in 2024. We will be funding, hopefully, up to six initiatives in this call. Some other aspects of the call is, of course, regarding the eligibility of the consortium. We are looking at for minimum 3 partners from different EU countries and associated countries. At least one must be a partner from a region, and at least one must be a civil society organization, and one partner must be an SME. We are really looking forward to involve companies, small companies or entrepreneurs and companies and for-profit agents, I mean, into social innovation and change this perspective in general. So we also have mandatory KPIs. You can choose between innovations launched to the market. Please mind, we are looking into, this connects with the idea of having concrete innovations putting out there that can be taken up by markets. And by markets mean other similar organizations like yourselves that can apply this on their own local-based challenges. Or maybe as mandatory KPI, you can choose also startups created. One of both options should be selected. Then we have optional KPIs for you to consider, to which you can or will be contributing. And please note that this call will require consortia to provide a minimum of 20% of funding. Again, I will not go into the details of the evaluation criteria, but it is very important that you go into the annexes and the supporting documents so you can get a glimpse of what are we valuing more for these proposals and how much specific weight you will have in each of the sites. And also, this is a two-step application process. So after the break, we will have more details on the specificities of this application process. So we have reached the moment in which we can go for a break. So I kindly invite you all to take a 10 minutes break, and we see each other back at 11:25. Thank you so much for your attention.
With the next part, with the last part, which is the most or the less interesting part in terms of content, but one of the most important for you in case you want to be applicant to these different calls for proposals. Okay, so I think that we can start. Okay, my name's Marc Martinez. Okay, I'm part of the EIT Culture and Creativity team. I'm specifically part of the PMO team of Culture and Creativity. And first of all, we'll talk about the evaluation process. Next slide, please. Okay, so just some numbers. Okay, so we have had a really good feedback from the different people that applied, let's say, to our call for experts. Okay, specifically, we received, let's say, more than 1,000 applications to be external experts evaluators for our pool of experts. Okay, from those 1,015 were eligible, meaning that currently our pool of experts is about 1,015 external experts evaluators. Things to keep in mind. We have received a total application from everywhere in Europe, okay, from the EU 27, mainly from Italy and Spain, but also from Germany, France, Portugal, and also the rest, let's say, of the areas and the rest of the countries, meaning that all countries are included in our pool of experts. Regarding balance, the 60% of the experts that are part of the pool are women. Okay, so the other 40% are men, meaning that the balance is good. Regarding the composition, it's important to keep in mind that besides, let's say, NGOs, besides universities, besides meaning higher education institutions, besides research institutions, there's a 28% of the external evaluators that are coming from an SME or from a startup, meaning that the industry is also represented. Next slide, please. So once we know the numbers, okay, first of all, let's talk about the dates referred to the evaluation. So as you already know, our call has been open from April and will be open till the 31 of May, okay, till the 31st of May. Once the deadline will arrive, we will start with the evaluation process. Okay, the first part of the evaluation process will be the admissibility and eligibility check. Okay, that will finish at the 6th of June, meaning that you need to keep in mind that from the 6th of June, you can receive an email from us saying that your proposal has been declared ineligible or partially ineligible. I will talk about it later on. The point here is that the people who pass the admissibility and eligibility check, the applicants, will not receive anything and they will pass to the next steps of the evaluation process, meaning the external evaluation, but also meaning the portfolio selection, etc. So at the beginning of June, we will start with the evaluation process that will be over for the calls 1, 3, and 4 at the end of July, with the final portfolio selection and the communication of results to the applicants. Okay, the ones that are proposed for granting, the ones that are proposed to be included in the reserve list, and the ones that are rejected. Next slide, please. For the calls 2 and 5, okay, the evaluation process, as you can imagine, will be longer. Why? Because the calls 2 and 5 have, let's say, a 2 stages submission process, meaning that the evaluation process is also divided in 2 stages. Consequently, once the deadline will arrive, which is also the 31st of May, we will carry out during the month of June the admissibility and eligibility check and the external evaluation for the expressions of interest. Okay, what it means? It means that at the end of June, the last day of June, probably, you will receive, let's say, a communication from us saying your proposal have been proposed and for going to the next step of the evaluation process, meaning that you will be invited to submit the full proposal or your proposal has been rejected. For the ones that are invited to submit the full proposal, they will have 1 month, okay, meaning from the 1st of July till the 4th of August to submit their project proposals. When the 4th of August will arrive, and the deadline of the submission of this full proposal will arrive, we will again carry out an admissibility and eligibility check, also an external expert's evaluation, and finally the portfolio selection and the communication of the final project results to the applicants, saying you have been selected for funding with conditions. I will talk about it later on. We have been proposed to be included in the reserve list, or your proposal has been rejected. Next slide, please. Okay, so we can, if you want, Patricia, we can do a lot of clicks here just to have all the information in the slide. Perfect. So here, so this is just an exercise of transparency. How the evaluation process works. So the evaluation process for the 1 stage submission calls, meaning call 1, call 3, and call 4, okay, is divided in 4 phases. Okay, the first phase, or the first part, is a part referred to the admissibility and eligibility check. What we do there, and meaning we, I mean internally EIT Culture and Creativity, is just to check if your project proposal is following the different rules, okay, the different admissibility and eligibility criteria that we have provided in the call document. In which page of the call document? The page 42. Okay, you have here the reference to the page 42, where you will find the admissibility and eligibility factors. Please keep in mind that it's really important for you to check all the factors and to be sure that all the factors are addressed according to what we are requesting. If you have any kind of doubt or question about it, just send an email to us to the call@eit-culture-creativity.eu, okay, and we will try to clarify your question. But the point is that you need to check all these admissibility and eligibility factors and to address them in order to be eligible for evaluation. Consequently, after the admissibility and eligibility check, what we do is to get all the eligible proposals, and we start with the external evaluation. The external evaluation, as the name says, is an evaluation that is carried out by 3 external independent experts, meaning people independent from the EIT Culture and Creativity, who carry out the evaluation process. How this is done? Let's say that each project proposal is evaluated at the same time by 3 independent expert evaluators. Each expert evaluator developed an individual evaluation report explaining, assessing the project proposal and putting a score on the different sections of the evaluation. Once the 3 external experts evaluators have developed this individual evaluation report for this project proposal, then in a consensus meeting, they meet, they agree, and they together agree in what is the evaluation summary report, which is the final document where we provide all the information referred to the external evaluation of your project proposal, such as the scoring and such as the comments and the explanations on why you have a scoring on 5 on one section or 10 or whatever. Okay, this evaluation summary report is a document and will be one of the first documents that you will receive when we will do the communication of the results. So once, let's say, the external evaluation has been carried out, the main outputs are the individual evaluation reports, the evaluation summary reports, and the first ranking list, meaning that we have a list of proposals scored, okay, from higher score to lower score. Those proposals that pass the threshold, and remember the threshold is 60 points, arrive to the selection committee. The selection committee get all the proposals that have 60 points or more, okay? And according to the order of scoring, but also according to additional criteria, meaning the portfolio selection criteria, you can find also this portfolio selection criteria in the page 44 of the call document, if I'm not wrong. These evaluation criteria, such as business intelligence, such as co-funding, such as KPIs addressed, etc., you can find all the explanation there, are the ones that the selection committee, which is integrated by the chief, by the C team of the EIT Culture and Creativity, meaning the chief financial officer, the chief operations officer, and the chief executive officer. So the C team, the selection committee, got all the project proposals that are there and just add this additional scoring to the ones that have arrived to the portfolio selection. So once this additional score has been included, then we have the final ranking list of project proposals by order of scoring. Accordingly, the main proposals, the proposals on the top, will be the ones proposed for funding, according always to the total number of project proposals expected to be funded. So these project proposals will be the ones that will be contacted in order to address some conditions, if necessary. What do we mean for conditions? It means that, for example, we can propose your proposal for approval, but however, maybe there are small things that we would like to ask you to modify. For example, reduce the number of KPIs, or increase the number of KPIs, or reduce the number of deliverables, just specific things that we need to agree in order to have the best version of your project proposal for you and for us. So after this portfolio selection process, we will carry out the communication of the project results. The communication of the project results will be an email where that you will receive, where you will find the evaluation letter, the evaluation summary report, and for those project proposals that are proposed for funding, also you will find the conditions that need and recommendations that should be addressed. No worries, because once you will receive this email, for the ones that are proposed for funding, you will also contact it parallelly in order, let's say, to have a meeting and to agree in the best way to address these different conditions if this is the case. Next slide, please. So here I'm not gonna go again in detail, because here the only difference, okay, for the two-stage submission evaluation process and the one-stage submission evaluation process is that we are duplicating, let's say, the admissibility and eligibility check and the external evaluation, both for the expressions of interest and for the full proposals evaluation. Next click, Patricia. Okay, so what it means at the end is the same. So we will carry out admissibility and eligibility check for the expressions of interest, evaluation, and then again the same for the full proposals. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we already know how the evaluation process works more or less. Okay, in case you have any question, again, just ask us, okay? But for sure, it's super important for you to keep in mind which are the admissibility and the evaluation factors to be taken into consideration, okay? So remember, from the page 42 to the page 45 of the call document, you will find the different and the general evaluation criteria. And then the specific evaluation criteria will be provided also and are also provided in the Annex 2 of the call document. In this case, how to apply? Next slide, please. So once you decide, okay, I really like this call for these different calls. I think that I can fit in one of the calls or in more than one, because the specific challenge and the specific desired activity really fits with me. I would like to apply. So the first thing that you should do is to be sure that all the entities that will be part of your consortium, okay, meaning universities, companies, etc., are part of the eligible countries for Horizon Europe, okay? You have a link with all this information in the call document, so I'm not gonna go in deep, okay? But just be sure that all the entities are located within the list of eligible countries. In case the entity is not there and you still have, let's say, any kind of doubt or question or how it works, or if your entity could be potentially be selected, again, just contact us and we will provide you with an answer. Regarding the risk countries, it's the same. You have the same information in the call document. Also, this presentation will be shared with you afterwards. So I'm not gonna go in detail explaining or reading what is already provided in the slide. Next slide, please. So you already know which are the eligible countries. Perfect. All the applicants in your consortium are eligible. Perfect. The second step is just to register your entities and all the entities that are part of your consortium at the Funding and Tenders portal from the European Commission. Okay, why? Because maybe some of you already have, the ones for sure that have participated in an Horizon Europe project will have, but the ones that is the first time that are applying to this kind of funds, you need to have the PIC number. So how to get the PIC number? How to register yourself in the EU portal in order to get the PIC number? You just need to go to our website, go to the calls for proposal section, go to the supporting documentation, and there you will find a wonderful handbook, a wonderful guide with the steps to be followed to get the PIC number from the European Commission, and meaning how to do the registration at the Funding and Tenders portal. It is super fast. It shouldn't take you more than 10-15 minutes, half an hour if you take a break for a coffee, okay? But it's super easy, okay? However, in case this is not really clear, you can also click, because as I said, we will share this presentation with you, you can also click in the following link where you will find also another guide provided by the European Commission with screenshots, which is even easier. Next slide, please. So perfect. So now all our applicants are eligible. All the applicants have the PIC number. What to do? What to do next? So then what you have to do is to go again to our website, to go to the calls for proposal section, to start scrolling down in order to find, let's say, the call at which you think you should apply. And once you arrive to this call, you will see that there are 4 sections. The call highlights, where you can find the most important information of the call. The key dates, meaning call opening, call closing, timing for the evaluation, expected communication of the project results, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the 3rd section, which is really important, which is the section where you must download the call forms. Okay, in this section, you will find 2 different types of documents. A Word, which is a template of the call form that you will need to submit through the application form, and an Excel file, which is the budget that you will need to upload within this application. Which is important is to fill in all the information in both documents before going to the application platform. Why? Because the application platform is a really intuitive and wonderful evaluation application platform, but however, you cannot save and stop and let's say, okay, I will start filling in all my application, then I will save it, and tomorrow or the day after I will continue doing my application. No, once you start your application, you need to finish the application at the same time. What it means? It means that the application form in Word that you have filled in, this application form will be useful for you to do a copy-paste of this information and putting this information in this application platform. Next slide, please. So once you click at the application platform, this will be the first page, okay, that will appear to you. Here, what you can find is at the bottom of this web page, you will find the percentage of completion of your application, just in reference. For sure, at the beginning, it will be 0 because you just started. Okay, and then at the bottom at the right, you will find the next button. Okay, the next button is the typical button that you need to click in order to pass the different pages of the application form. Next slide, please. In this case, the first thing that you will find, the general information. So to fill in the general information, you just need to follow the instructions that you can find, let's say in the application form, and that you will see that are really easy. Again, as I said, to fill in the information, in the most of the cases, you just will need to do a copy-paste from the template that you have already filled in of the application form in Word and paste this information in the application form online. Then, once the information is filled in, you can click Next. Here, again, you will have the possibility also, and this is important, you will have the possibility to download again, let's say, the call application form, the call budget. In any case, this is something that you have done earlier, that you have done before, so no worries about it. Next, please. Okay, so here, the point is that once you will be filling in all the information, okay, you will pass page by page by page, and you will be requested to fill in different kinds of information. Okay, things that you need to keep in mind. For example, the online project pitch. Okay, this is something that is requested. Okay, as part of the documents that you must submit within the call. So accordingly, this online project pitch is something that you will need to upload in the Fraunhofer, in this specific link from Fraunhofer Cloud, and then you will have to put the name and reference, okay, of this specific online project pitch here in order to let us know where we can find it. Next slide. Okay, again, so then you will have, let's say, you will see that you just will need to follow the different instructions. In the case of risks, okay, you will be requested to put at least 3 different risks. Okay, so this is something that you already will have provided in the Word application form. Which is important for you to keep in mind is that you should be, let's say, really clear with the kind of risks that you are expecting. Okay, so at the end, the point of including your risks is just to let us, and specifically the evaluators, to know if you have identified the different potential risks that your project proposal can find during the implementation, and you have also identified corrective and preventive measures for these risks. Next slide, please. Okay, then again, you will have to following all the instructions here. For example, you will be requested within the work packages to identify, first of all, the number of work packages that will be included in your working plan. So which is important here. Don't be really ambitious. What I mean that if your project proposal is a 1-year project proposal, please don't put 10 work packages. It's not necessary. Okay, so at the end, for example, for 1 year, 5 work packages should be enough. Okay, at the end, what you need to look for is for a working plan that is useful for you and that it's manageable. Next slide. So here, for example, then a click, please, here. Super good. So then one of the another important points to keep in mind, or another important parts to keep in mind, is the one referred to the budget and the KPIs. So regarding the budget, you will need to provide the budget, and this budget will be the document in Excel that you have already downloaded before and that you have already filled in. So the only thing that you will need to do here is to put some of the information in the application form and then to upload this document through this button, which is upload file. Next slide, please. And this will be the end. So once all, let's say, the application form for the full proposal will be done, you will find yourself in this point where the system will request you for your email. Once you provide the email and click submit, we can click now, you will receive this email. This email will be the proof that you have successfully submitted the project proposal. One thing to keep in mind regarding the online application form, that for me it's wonderful. If you are not filling in all the information mandatory required, you will not be able to pass to the next page of the application form, which means that it will be super useful for you in order to be sure, okay, that you are not forgetting any information than the information that we are requesting. As I said, everything is explained in the application form in Word provided in our website and also in the application form from the application platform. However, if you have any kind of question or whatever, you can go to the frequent asked questions document, or you can directly contact to us in case the answer is not provided in this document. Next slide, please. So in this case, this was the process that you need to follow for the full proposals for the one stage, okay, submission process. In the case of the calls 2 and 5, where you have 2-stage submission processes, in this case, you will have to do this process twice, meaning once for the expression of interest, and in case you are selected and invited to submit the full proposal, so the second time for submitting the full proposal. The submission of the full proposal and the steps will be the same as before, and in the case of the submission of the expression of interest is also the same as before. So goes to the EIT Culture and Creativity website, go to the call for proposal section, scroll down, download the different call forms, meaning in this case, specifically the call form for the expression of interest, and then click here and start with the online application. We can click. Super good. And again, it will be the same. Yeah, you can be clicking, Patricia, because at the end is the same. So just try to follow the instructions. Just remember, click again, please. Just remember to fill in the project pitch, okay, and to follow the instructions on where you have to fill in this project pitch, okay, and just keep continue. You will see that in this case, the expression of interest is quite shorter, as you can imagine, than the full project proposal. Okay, so it will be faster for you to fill it in. It will be faster for you to submit. However, since it's shorter, please try to provide in the shorter space that you have the most clear idea on what you want to do and with the highest quality possible, because this will be the best way to ensure that you will be invited to go to the full proposal application. Next slide, please. Again, Here, for expression of interest, you will also receive this email as a proof that you have successfully submitted your project proposal. Next. And now, let's say we have already talked about different things, about the call contents, about the general conditions. Then we have detailed, let's say, the different kinds of calls with the most important features. Then we have talked about the evaluation process, right? Now we have been talking about how to apply. And now, as a summary, let's just provide you with some tips and tricks, okay, which I think are really important for you to keep in mind. The first thing, read carefully the call document as well as all supporting documents. It's super important for you in case you want to have a successful application, but also in case you want to have simply an eligible application, to read carefully all the call document, okay? Especially the admissibility and eligibility criteria and the evaluation criteria. Secondly, as I said several times, download the call and budget forms before starting your online application, okay? Then you will have plenty of time to fill in all the information in these forms, to be sure that all the information is clear, and then once you would like to submit, let's say, the official application online form, you will just need to take 10 minutes and to copy paste all the information once this information is required. Finally, regarding annexes, we have several annexes, and to be annex doesn't mean that this is not important. So Annex 2 and Annex 3 are really important documents to keep into consideration. Next slide, please. For Annex 2, in Annex 2, you will have more detailed information. You will find out more detailed information regarding the KPIs to be addressed. As you already know, you have some mandatory KPIs and some optional KPIs for the different calls, okay? The mandatory KPIs are the ones that you must provide according to the minimum specific target that is requested. In this case, for example, for the 7.1, which is a KPI referred to the graduates from EIT labeled programs. Here we are talking about a minimum of 25. But here in this annex, the additional important information that you will find are the evidence, the supporting documents that you will need to provide as a proof of evidence that you have addressed these KPIs. So read it carefully before saying, okay, I will address 30 or 50 or whatever target, because at the end, this is something that you will need to prove. So here you will find all the information referred to the supporting documents that you will need to provide in case you are proposed for funding, meaning in case you are granted for us during the project implementation. Next slide, please. Annex 3. Okay, you will have some information regarding the evaluation criteria within the main call document. However, the most specific criteria, and to be clear, the points that will be followed by the external evaluators to evaluate your project proposals are included and are detailed in the Annex 3, which is the evaluation annex. Okay, there are 4 different criteria that they will use. First of all, excellence. Secondly, implementation. Can we click, please? Excellence is referred to the innovation potential of your project proposal. So try to read carefully the different evaluation factors, okay? And remember, here you need to sell out how your project proposal is innovative. Okay, here the evaluators need to know how your project proposal represents a step forward regarding the current state of the art, of the technology, of the service, or whatever you would like to carry out. Second point is the implementation, which means the innovation management. Here you need to provide information on how you pretend, let's say, to implement the project regarding work packages, but also regarding deliverable, regarding milestones, etc., etc. So these will be the points that will be evaluated here in the implementation section. Next slide. Perfect. We can do a couple of clicks more, Patricia, if you want. Perfect. So here in impact. So in impact, you need to provide information on the expected impacts of the project during and after the project implementation, and also on the barriers and the potential market of the project. Another click, well, 2 clicks more, I think. And finally, the strategic fit. This is one of the criteria that are more important to be kept into consideration, because at the end, this is the main criteria that they will look for, which is how your project proposal fits within the call that you are submitting the project proposal. If we are asking, for example, for digital architecture, just an idea, and you are submitting a project about planes, okay, your project proposal will not pass the strategic fit because it's something that is not related to the specific call where you are submitting the project proposal. So this is one of the criteria that they will be evaluating within this strategic fit. Also, the KTI is in knowledge triangle integration. So how your project proposal addresses this knowledge triangle integration, there are 2 ways in which you can address it. And let's say these 2 ways can be used at the same time, meaning the first way is including the different agents, the different stakeholders belonging to this knowledge triangle integration, meaning universities, industry, research institutions within the consortia of your project, but also explaining how your project within the impact section will, let's say, impact in this knowledge triangle for the universities, for the industry, etc., etc., etc. Here also the European dimension will be assessed. Okay, what is the European dimension? The European dimension is the European dimension of your project. Okay, and how can you show the European dimension? Again, with your consortium partners. Remember that we are asking at least for 2 different entities from 2 different EU member states or associated countries, but this is at least. We say at least. This is minimum. What it means? It means that the bigger the consortium is, meaning the more countries are represented from the European Union in the consortia, okay, the better your proposal will address this European dimension. So keep that in mind. Next slide. And this is the last slide. And this is the most important thing. Take your time again. Okay, you know when the deadline is, okay? So you don't need to rush, you don't need to wait till last moment, okay? Keep into consideration that besides the application platform, it's wonderful and it's super intuitive and faster, okay? My advice as an all applicant, just try to test the application platform before, and if possible, let's say, to submit your application before the deadline in order to avoid potential problems, okay? Keep in mind that one of the admissibility and eligibility criteria is that the proposal must be submitted on time and according to the date and according to the hour. So take your time and remember, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe, okay? So get prepared, give the best of yourself, and good luck. Thanks million. And now, yeah.
Thank you so much, Marc, for this comprehensive presentation on the application process. We are actually ahead of time, which is probably like a world record or something in this kind of event. So we will have our Q&A and session right now. We will try to address as many of your questions here, and there's a chance that we leave early today, so that's another good news for today. So I will call my colleagues to join the room, Mehjabeen, Bernd, and Claudia, and probably Marc, you can also say, so that in case there are questions for you. And I will start, while my colleagues join the room, I will start with the easy questions. The first one, we will get a recording of this meeting. Yes, you will. We will prepare the full video, and it might take us a couple of days, a while, but yes, we will post it in our website and we will make you know, a fuss about it in our social media. There's another question, easy question. What is the structure of the membership fees? These, as I mentioned right before we started, we have uploaded in the website, in the call for proposals, supporting documents, a fact sheet with the membership schemes and all of the fees structures of the for the membership schemes. Then, will you be sharing this PowerPoint? Yes, we will. We will likely upload it along with the video. There's another question about, is Denmark not included? Yes, it should be included. If it was not visible in the slide with eligible countries, it's probably a mistake. But yes, Denmark is one of the countries, 27. Yeah.
In fact, yeah, just if I can jump in. No, well, maybe if you weren't, let's say, following at this specific time, we didn't mention any kind of member state or associated country. Okay, we just were referring to the risk countries. I mean, the risk countries are not Scandinavian countries, are not the typical countries, are specific countries. But for sure, Denmark, as the rest of EU members, are eligible for funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marc, for jumping in. So I will open now questions for my colleagues in the room. So the first one, do we need to be members from the EIT Culture and Creativity community to get funded? Bernd, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, happy to do this. I had this already in my slides. And in order to apply, you don't have to be a member. However, if you win and get a grant, we expect you to join the EIT Culture and Creativity and to use its services. The membership fees for community members starts at 1,000 euros and reach up to 5,000 as an average. Then for EU 13 countries and cities and stakeholders, it's even less. So those fees are not prohibitive. It's rather about, using the whole ecosystem to make the best out of your project.
Thank you, Bernd. I will take the opportunity that you're already with your mic open to ask you, what does audiovisual include?
Yes, that's a good question. They've been asked quite a lot. Just refer, if you have those questions in general, to the European definitions of the European Commission. We also, as we are a funded project from Horizon Europe over the EIT, as a rule, adhere to those definitions. So here, in concretely, it includes production, recording, distribution of motion pictures, video and music, radio and TV broadcasting, publishing of computer video games, and computer programming activities. So I hope that helps and is inclusive enough to motivate you to apply.
Yes, in fact, we have a related question. There's a very specific question saying, can a candidate with an expertise in the music sector submit a proposal that has a cross-sectoral focus on the audiovisual area?
What should be the expertise on again?
The music
sector. Expertise in music sector, submit a proposal that has a cross-sectorial. This is a specific question and it's a clear yes. Yes, you can.
Indeed, the cross-sectorial focus is positively valued, and as long as the project proposal fits with the scope and the specific challenge of the call, then it should be, as Bernd mentions, a strong yes.
Yeah. And maybe Patricia, just to add, this is a good question as a role model, for all sectors. You would also say and read this question, what is if you have an expertise in architecture or design? Can you combine the internal innovation with the cross-innovation into other sectors? And as we try to explain, this double take on innovation inside and beyond is highly relevant for us. So also take this as a rule and a yes.
Thank you, Bernd. I will take the next one. The next question is there a portal where we can find consortium partners for the culture and creativity calls? So at the moment, this is our first call. At the moment, participants may search for partners in the funding and tender opportunities portals of the European Commission. The exact location may be found in the frequently asked questions in the support in our call documents. But in the future, we will have we will put together the means for partners and the community members to network and be able to form consortia to these calls. So we have another question, Claudia. I will forward this one to you. Can we expect further calls like these in the coming years? Will there be regular call openings?
Yes, of course. I mean, that is the main purpose of the EIT Culture and Creativity, to bring money into the ecosystem for innovations. So this is really our first startup year. We're mainly acting behind the curtain, so to say. We're building up our organization digitally, in terms of human resources, in terms of setting up processes, operations, and so on. So this round of calls is really some kind of a pilot round to see how it is going. And because we have just explained how we consider funding, it's not just we fund you and then we're out. We really want to accompany you. We want to build a partnership with you. So that means we want to also invest resources in you from a human resources point. So that means for the next round of calls this year, we will take care of the calls we have submitted now, and already look forward to a lot of partnerships that we will be collaborating with. So the next round of calls will be next year, and it will be coming up regularly in all the other fields as well. So I've mentioned the strategic objectives that are not touched upon in these calls will be subject to next calls and tenders and so on. So yes, there is a lot more to be expected.
Thank you, Claudia. I will take the moment to ask all participants that are raising their hands to, we will not be opening mics for this session, but please do send us your questions through the question box that you have in your panel of control. We are addressing the questions that were inserted through there. And questions, and just for peace of mind, questions that cannot be addressed live now because of time or because we don't have the answer at the moment will be then collated and answered in the next iteration of the frequently asked questions of this info day. So moving on to the next question. Are there any restrictions on how many applications one institution may be part of, either as lead applicant or as partner? Claudia, would you like to take that one?
Yes, I can take that one. So no, there are no limitations, but you will have to consider, of course, the workload if you win several applications, which might not be so likely, but still consider it, but no formal restriction in that case.
Thank you, Claudia. And I will forward this one to Marc. Marc, are organizations from the UK eligible for funding?
Well, in fact, indeed, the organizations from UK are eligible for funding. This is something that has been already, let's say, published within the European Commission questions and answers document. And also, this is something that is explained in our frequent asked questions document that can be found together with the rest of supporting documents in our website, specifically in the calls for proposal section.
Thank you, Marc. Now that you have the mic open, here's another question for you. So it's a very generic question. Who can lead a project?
Okay, who can lead? Okay, any eligible consortium participant can be the lead applicant for a project. Okay, so everybody is eligible. However, it's recommended for us that the project is led by the participant responsible for the commercialization of the results. Okay. This is something important to keep in mind. So, and this is something that is also provided in the call document.
Exactly, and maybe to add on this, it might be requested, for example, in the education calls, that a specific type of organization is the lead applicant. For example, in education, it's a higher education institution. So everything is basically in the details. You just have to look at it.
Thank you, Claudia. Yes, this is an important reminder that all applicants are encouraged to read and read again the call applications, because there is they are certain eligibility conditions to comply with, and unfortunately, if they are not complied with, your proposal might not be evaluated at all. So let's go to more on eligibility, and this time on eligibility of costs. Is a fixed funding rate applied per beneficiary, which applies to all its cost categories? Or can, for example, travel and subsistence be funded at a rate 100% rate, while personal costs will be funded at a lower rate? Mehjabeen, I think this one's for you.
Yes, yeah. I think if I get the question right, what it is asking is that whether the cost of a project are 100% funded by the grant, and if not, are some of the cost 100% funded. So most of the in most of the calls, the projects are 100% funded in for 100% funded by EIT funding. So in those cases, all eligible costs are part of the project, and therefore are funded by the EIT grant. In cases where we are asking for co-funding, our grant is the 100%. If the project is a maximum grant of, let's say, $500,000, then that $500,000 can be spent on all eligible cost, and any co-funding is additional to that $500,000, and will also include only the eligible cost, whether that is travel, whether that is salaries, whether that is other consumables within the projects, labor, materials, and all other things. So the sort of quick answer to this specific question is that our funding, it can be applied to all eligible cost, and where it is 100% funding, that will cover the 100% of the eligible cost.
Thank you, Mehjabeen. A follow-up question on the co-funding. One of our participants asked if the additional funding that is required for a project has to be monetary or can be in form of materials or labor.
So it can be in form of material and labors, as long as that there is cash spent on those costs, and it can be evidenced as part of the evidence that will be submitted to EIT Culture and Creativity with the claims. So all eligible cost of the project, whether they are 100% funded by EIT grant or they're part of co-funding, has to be evidenced and put into the claim statement. So yes, labor cost, staff cost can be part of this, and they can be in-kind contribution, but they have to be evidenced as part of the claim.
And another question on co-funding: can the co-funding can intervene in the 24 months of the project, or it should be in year one?
Well, again, I think it's related to the answer I gave earlier. A project holistically, has a start and an end date, and the costs are spent between that start and that end date. So any costs that are incurred during that period are eligible. So the match funding is part of that cost that is spent throughout the year. So as EIT, we don't require the evidence at the start, a hard evidence at the start. If you are claiming in your project that there's 30% of co-funding, of course, we may require some evidence of evidence that that funding is available in form of letters or consideration by partners. But the actual evidence of that cost available will be as part of the claims that you will submit to us at the end of the project or during all the sort of reporting periods.
Thank you, Mehjabeen. I'm not letting you go yet. I have a question regarding IP. The question is, can you please develop how will this aspect be assessed for software or app solutions?
Well, IP can take various forms. There's IP that is patentable, i.e., there's patentable IPs where that is very clear that you apply for a patent and you're granted a patent and you have ownership of that patent. But there's other IP that is perhaps like copyright and perhaps is not patentable but has copyrights. So in terms of software, we are very aware that majority of the software is not patentable, and it's sort of a technology that has some proprietary element to it. If there's no proprietary element to a software you are developing, then we totally understand that, and we would be looking to see measures that can protect from that software to be copied or misused. But if there isn't a proprietary element, then that is very understandable.
Thank you, Mehjabeen. I just want to stress again the notion that consortia are entirely responsible for setting up necessary agreements or pre-agreements to make sure that your results are exploitable and make sense, including all negotiations and agreements of licenses, access to background, ownership of foreground. So this is an important thing that the consortia should get sorted, and that expert evaluators will assess in terms of quality and feasibility of the exploitation. So now we have a couple of questions jumping directly into the calls, specific calls. So this, I guess, is a call for the venture factory. Can the proposals be built on existing acceleration programs, even if partly supported by already by other European grants, such as Creative Europe program?
Yes, I can answer it, and then perhaps Bernd might want to add to that. I think the purpose of EIT Culture and Creativity funding is to bring additionality to what is already happening. This funding is not to act as working capital for existing incubation and acceleration program. So wherever possible, when you apply, please make sure there is an additionality element. Now, if there is an existing program and what you are coming to us and proposing is to build on that existing program and offer something that is specific to culture and creative sector, and really hit the conditions and the impact that we are looking for from this activity, then that is absolutely possible and eligible. We are absolutely looking for experts who are delivering existing programs, because they have the expertise and the knowledge of supporting businesses in this field. But what we are specifically looking for is additionality for the culture and creative sector. So please don't come to us with sort of funding to add to your existing work, but please come to us with something that really addresses the specific need that we have highlighted.
Thank you,
Patricia, let
Mehjabeen.
me just add to Mehjabeen, which is all completely correct. Just to give you a strategic view on this as well, is, as you know, we are supporting innovation and cross-innovation, and also incubating companies can involve different sectors. So if there is a digital innovation hub, and there is the connex of digital economy, digitalization, digital transformation to creative industries, then that might be value added, to start this from an existing hub. But just as Mehjabeen said, not as a funding for this hub, but as an additional activity on top. Otherwise, it would be multiple funding, which is not allowed anyway. So we hope here again to have the cross-fertilization again as an incentive.
Thank you, Bernd. I have a question in relation to call 3, the innovation projects. Do the proposals for call 3 have to specify the type of activity, architecture, audiovisual, design? For many solutions, more than one category can apply.
Yeah, I think I don't know what the question the person who asked the question meant by specifying when the call document will be written, when the application is written. Of course, you know, the reference to the sector will become very evident and will have to be there. But it's absolutely allowed that there is cross innovation between those sectors. If the applicant's project is touching more than one of those subsectors, then they are absolutely encouraged and allowed to bring them forward and refer to all those impact areas, all those impact sectors in their application.
And maybe to add up on this, sorry if I may, if you create an incubation or acceleration scheme, you wouldn't do it only for startups in architecture. Of course, you would address startups from different sectors. Here again, mainly addressing our high impact markets. So you make sure that these sectors are integrated in your customers for the incubation scheme, so to say.
Thank you, Claudia. I have a question related, again, I think we touched upon this briefly, but on strategic objective 2, call 3, which is the breakthrough lab, must all partners have an agreement for the commercialization?
Well, that's a really good question. I think if an innovation project involves more than 2 or 3 partners, then there has to be a very clear understanding about what is the commercial potential of the innovation that is being funded, and what is the route to market for that that innovation that is funded, and who is responsible for that exploitation. If those 3 things require all the 3 partners or more than 3 partners to be part of an agreement or an understanding, then yes, there should be that agreement, and that should be explained in their call, i.e. what is the potential commercial potential for the innovation, who is responsible for exploiting it, and what contractual and other arrangements are made between the partners to make that happen. So yes, there isn't a requirement that everybody signs up to it, but the requirement is that there's a clear understanding, a clear route to exploitation, and that if that needs a proper contractual agreement between the 3 parties, then that should be one.
Thank you, Mehjabeen. I have a follow-up question for the Breakthrough Lab. It's a twofold question. The first part of the question is, do you expect these projects, innovation projects, to be 2 or 3 years long? And the second part of the question is, can there be both full and associate partners or members to the consortium, the full receive funding and the associate do not receive funding?
You might have to repeat the second part of the question, but let me answer the first part of the question. The intention of the call is that the projects are funded for 1 year. So the cost of the cost that the EIT Culture and Creativity will be funding will last for 1 year, from the start to the end, 12 months. But what we expect the exploitation to happen within the 24 months, i.e. 2 years from the start of the project. So the first year is the innovation happens, and in some cases the actual innovation and the project can be completed before, and go-to-market strategy is already implemented in the first 12 months. But the cost for the project are funded for the first 12 months, and we expect that the innovation has a market entry and is sort of generating income within the 24 months from the start of the project. So that in total it's 2 years. 1 year funded project and 1 year to exploit the innovation and generate revenues.
Thank you, Mehjabeen. We also have a question for call 4, the venture factory. Can a candidate, I understand applicant from a risk country, be the lead applicant for strand 1?
Yes, absolutely, and I will let other come in as to add to it. Absolutely. I mean, I think the risk strand is created separately, so to encourage risk participation. But the risk participants are not restricted to just risk strands. They are absolutely eligible to be lead partners across any strands, and they are encouraged to do so.
Thank you, Mehjabeen. So I have another question here, and it comes down to the financial sustainability mechanisms. So do all funded projects need to generate revenue?
Yes, I think we want them to generate revenue. As I said in the presentation, I mean, our aim, our strategic aim from this funding is, and I think Bernd very expertly outlined that in his opening presentation as well, that we want to create an ecosystem that actually creates sustainability, is financially sustainable in the long run, and is not relying on public funding in the long run, because the public funding will not be around in the long run. So we encourage and we expect all projects to actually consider the financial sustainability part of their program. I think, you know, being a not-for-profit or a public value organization doesn't mean that there's not a commercial or economic activity happening from the project. The organization can be for the public value and public impact and looking at not-for-profit activity, but there could still be an economic sort of value that can be created. And yes, we do expect all projects to look at the economic value from their innovation, from their activity, and create a mechanism to bring the return back to the project itself and the organizations that are involved, and to EIT Culture and Creativity.
Patricia, let me add something on the strategic level, how to see this financial sustainability mechanism, also in the context of the different funding programs around in Europe, or even at national or city level. Usually when you receive a fund and you have a surplus, you have to return this surplus to the ones who funded you. And so all these kind of funding mechanisms are not incentivizing to make a surplus and to keep it. Here, the EIT has this great exception that allows you to keep a surplus. And so there is an incentive for you to have one, not necessarily to commercialize, you know, where there is no commerce, but just also when you're doing non-for-profit activity and there is income, to generate this income, to make your costs, you know, covered more sustainable, and to keep it. And so I think this is really one of the great advantages of the EIT scheme, that it reverses this incentive and rewards those who are collaborating and generating income for profit or non-profit reasons. So yeah, we invite you also to see this really a special take of the EIT funds, and to recognize what kind of turnaround this is in difference to many other funding schemes. Yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bernd. In fact, there are many questions around the specificities of the financial sustainability mechanisms. Yeah. There's a couple that revolve about the question is, to what degree does EIT Culture and Creativity expect to generate returns on investments? Is the expectation that the whole grant sum will be repaid within a certain amount of time, plus a positive return on investment, or is it a different way?
Yeah, I think, Bernd, you can come as well later, but just to say, we expect, as we just said, we expect all projects to think about commerciality, think about financial sustainability, whether it is for profit or not for profit. And we and EIT will deal with different projects and at different levels, because on case-to-case basis, what kind of mechanisms can be put in place will be different for different projects. In some projects, there will be you know, expectations to get the actual funding that we have put in place, but in most cases, there is no cap on the return that can be generated from those projects, and that should come back to EIT and EIT Culture and Creativity. So we expect our own funding to be returned, the 100%, and then a positive return on top of that 100% if possible. Of course, as I said, this is different for different projects, and it will be decided on case-to-case basis. But yes, our return is not limited to 100% of our funding. We expect a positive return in the long run. Bernd, do you want to add anything to that? Or
Oh, this is complete. Maybe just to say, I thought there was a question was if you have to return even funds, if you don't generate a surplus, that's not the case.
That's not the case, yes.
Yeah, it's just this reversal of the incentives to take the surplus one is doing with those projects. And of course, the higher the better for you, as a stakeholder, and for us. So I think we have a joint, hopefully winning boat here we have together. But as projects are really different, in the field of the value impact, they will be really different than maybe in the breakthrough lab or education. So this must be dealt case by case and will never be prohibitive to make a project. It is the add-on if in a best possible worlds there is a surplus. Then we need to talk how we share this. But first of all, our main concern is that you make a surplus.
Yeah, and just to add Patricia, on to that question very quickly, as Bernd very rightly said, economic activity or commercial activity is the intention is that project generate a return, but not all projects are going to be successful, and not every innovation is going to result into return. But where it does, we expect the return. Where it doesn't, of course, we are not expecting the original grant to be paid back. But that doesn't mean that when we are looking at the applications, we are absolutely scoring the financial sustainability and the commercial sort of mechanisms they have, each project is putting in place, and there's sort of in the evaluation criteria there's marks for that. So if the project is not successful, that is of course happens in all categories, but that doesn't mean we're not looking for success measures in the first place. So there should be a clear balance on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mehja. In fact, there are questions regarding that what happens when the expected revenues won't be achieved after closure of the project. Does that mean that the grant needs to be paid back? So I guess that's a no, right?
No, it doesn't need to be paid back. No.
Okay, so we have some other. Some of the participants would like to have some examples of how these financial sustainability mechanisms will work, for instance, in a master program, or how this would affect, for instance, cities and municipalities which are not inclined to generating revenues. How would they manage this?
Well, again, I think when applicants are putting their projects together, as Bernd said earlier, irrespective of whether they are cities or not-for-profit organizations, this is an opportunity for applicants to look at how they can put a project together that has some commercial returns back for the projects. And if cities are putting that together, there are partners in there that are in a position to actually, if the city is not in a position to generate returns back for itself, the partners may be, and the overall partnership may be. So all project applicants are encouraged to look at the commercial side of their project, and therefore come back with a proposal that can sort of stand them out in terms of what can be returned. I think, as I said, if they are cities or if they're not-for-profit organizations, they are still able to generate returns within that project. They may not, use it as profit, but they can still return. So the answer to the question is everybody can look at and should look at commercial returns. Yeah. Bernd, do you have anything to add on, especially on the city's perspective?
Yeah, I just want to say, of course, upfront, we all know cities are generating vast amounts of income, but they would not call it a commercial return. And so we are really here at the threshold of, a new program being launched for our sector, where parts of the sector are used to public grants, which are not being paid back and are kind of lost. And this thinking of what could be the return is not practice. and was not asked for. All good. And now there is a new opportunity which will not fit to any stakeholder. It's a positive decision to say, look, I also want to look into the returns. And for a city, the phrase to generate commercial returns of a library and the museum might not fit, but to say we generate return on our performances and services will fit. So the colleagues out here, when applying, please keep in mind that we are now merging two different also languages of commercial return and income generated on non-for-profit activities. Those are close together. For one of you, this sounds awkward. For others, it's natural. So that's also part of bringing together our ecosystem and bringing together those languages and perspectives. And always happy to address us on that. We know this is a task for longer. We're just starting this now, and it will take likely a few years to get acquainted to those different languages and worlds now coming here together. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Bernd. Claudia, I have one question for you. It's about the call on the Breakthrough Lab, and the participant asks that it is expected that the innovation generates income within 24 months, but the projects have a maximum of 1 year duration. So it cannot, the participant says, I don't quite understand that point. Can you please elaborate on this?
Yeah, I think the revenue part is more with Mehjabeen. So I don't know, Mehjabeen, if you can maybe answer this question.
Patricia, can you repeat the question? Because I was reading other questions that were coming up.
Yes, it's about how can we request revenue in 24 months when the project's duration is 1 year.
Well, as I explained earlier, we are allowing up to 24 months for the income, allowing that time for innovation to be, the innovation activity to be completed, and then the product, service, or process to be launched into the market, and for the revenue to then start coming through. So we are allowing 12 months after the end of the project for that to happen. So I explained it earlier, the cost of the project are funded for 1 year. And then there's another 1 year period for the partners to use the innovation and launch it into market and generate income from that product or service or process. So that is why there's a 2 year period, 1 year for working on the innovation and 1 year to exploiting it. In some cases, that could be earlier. In some cases, the project might start earning income in the year 1, while it is within the project funded life cycle. It can be possible. 2 years is the maximum we have allowed. After 2 years, we sort of consider what happens with the innovation, whether there can be other strategies to exploit the innovation.
Thank you. Another question on the Breakthrough Lab, but I guess it fits other projects. It is about how they build, an applicant can build the budget. So the question is, the expected 30% contribution from sponsors, the co-funding, is 30% of the 500K, which is the total allocation that we expect to give maximum to each project. So it is 500K expected to be the 70% of the project budget that the EIT Culture and Creativity will fund, or how does it work?
So I think Marc might have something to say on it, but just very quickly, we will fund maximum of $500,000 in innovation projects, and the co-funding is in addition to that up to $500,000 that EIT will fund. So if the overall budget is 700, then $500,000 will be funded by EIT up to $500,000, and the rest will come from co-funding. Marc, I think you have something to add, or is that correct?
No. I think in this case, yeah, the first point it's super clear. So the point is that remember that we are always talking about EIT contribution. not budget. Okay, so this is an important point. The second point is that when we are talking about co-funding, the co-funding impacts on the whole consortia. What it means that you don't need to ask to every partner of your consortia to have a 70% of funding and a 30% of co-funding. But however, you can try to handle it according to the needs of the consortia if the whole consortium budget addresses these points, right, Mehjabeen?
Yeah, that's correct. The co-funding is on the consortium level, and if it is coming from just one partner, that's absolutely fine. If it's coming from all the partners, that is fine too.
Thank you. I have a question here about the so-called pre-financing. So the question is, do the companies need to provide 100% of the money in advance and only in the end of the year we will be refunded by EIT, or are there milestones to be reached throughout the year with respect to percentage of total funding?
Yes, so there is absolutely going to be pre-financing of the project. The actual level of pre-financing will be decided on case-to-case basis, but we absolutely expect to pay the project a pre-financing of a certain level, and then the rest of the funding is based on milestones and various sort of point during the project life. As I said, the detail of that will be decided on case-to-case basis after the successful applicant is informed, and then the contracting process takes place. But then, yes, there's going to be a pre-financing. Applicants are not required to fund everything 100% for the life of the project.
Another question on the breakthrough lab, where this is a very popular call I am seeing. So, can we apply with an innovation whose development has been financed in former projects?
Well, again, I will ask colleagues to come in as well, but my answer will be that our funding is not there to just sort of add to something that is already been financed. It can't be double funded. So all activity that is financed from EIT Culture and Creativity funding has to be new activity. It can be part of an old innovation that is funded somewhere else, but the sort of the new innovation happening in that old project has to be new, and the cost have to be new, more importantly. So yes, it can be an innovation that is originally funded somewhere else, but our funding is taking that innovation to the next level and taking it perhaps to the market, as we are asking for close to market innovation. It's inevitable that the first few level of readiness are funded from other sources. That's absolutely fine. But the part that is funded from our funding has to be exclusively funded from our funding. It can't have already been funded before.
Yeah, if I may add, the point is that if the same innovation has been already funded, it means that maybe this specific point of innovation is not innovative anymore. So the point is that, as Mehjabeen said, so it's important to keep in mind the TRL scale, okay, the technology readiness levels, in order to show which is the expected step forward, the current state of the art of the project.
Maybe, Patricia, just to add to this, while it's completely true, there can be no double funding and the innovation must be on top. It is also the case that projects which have been funded under Creative Europe or Horizon Europe or a national scheme, can apply as long as they fulfill, as Mehjabeen and Marc outlined, this additionality of the funding. And as we want to do, ideas implemented to market, certainly someone had to fund all the TRL levels in before. And just to notify that, in our perspective, culture and creative sectors, this goes for a lot of different funding programs, not just Horizon Europe funded projects, can be kind of leveled up here to the market.
Yes, thank you, Bernd. This is a formal question, maybe for Marc. Will the results of the evaluations will be published, or will be either evaluation or information about those projects who will get a grant?
For sure, for sure. In fact, this is a mandatory requirement. Okay, so the number of projects funded as well, and specifically for the ones that are funded and specifically specific field of information will be also included in our website. Okay, so you will have the results, the success rate, etc. Besides the more specific information regarding evaluation summary reports, etc. This is something that for sure will remain confidential in the hands of the specific applicant and the EIT Culture and Creativity.
So it has two parts. We will the results of the evaluations of each proposal will remain confidential. This is not to be published, but for the successful agreement proposals that reach grant agreement with EIT Culture and Creativity, this information will become public, right?
Yeah. And in fact, keep in mind that this is public money, so it's clear that we need to publish it.
Thank you. So we have 3 questions left, and these are mine to answer, I guess. Please, any of the colleagues, please jump in. One of the questions are, what is the key information that should be presented in a video pitch? So there are many ways of doing things right. Our recommendation is to look at the evaluation criteria and try to put yourselves in the shoes of the evaluators, and how are they going to assess your proposal, and highlight in those video pitches the key messages you want to come through in a compelling way. I don't know if anyone has any other recommendations for the video pitches.
I think that was great, Patricia. I think it's, you know, video pitches are were just an additional tool to explain your program clearly through words rather than written word with spoken word, and an added tool. You know, it's not compulsory. So be creative, feel the way you can bring your message forward.
The other question I have here is there going to be a matchmaking event to collaborate with potential partners? Unfortunately, for this first call for proposals, we are not yet in a state of maturity to organize these kinds of events. As you know, EIT Culture and Creativity is in its startup year, and we are setting everything and getting up ready. But for the next calls of proposals, hopefully we will be in a better position to organize this kind of matchmaking events, and so that, you know, the partners, the community, and the new applicants can interact and possibly find new cooperation opportunities. It is a matter of time. So this was the last question, or the almost last question, because the very last question is, where can I write to further to send further specific questions? And for start, we recommend you to check the frequently asked questions document that we have online. There's a very high chance that your question is already answered there. So before writing, check the facts document, and then you can write, if there's not your question or your answer, please write to our email calls@EIT Culture and Creativity. We are updating the facts document iteratively. In fact, we will take all of these questions that we have addressed today, and we will reinforce that document with questions that may have not been raised yet. And yeah, so hopefully this document will be very useful for you and help you sort your doubts about the course. So that was the last question. So we are very close to closing, very close to finalizing the session. So I would like to, I don't know if some of my colleagues would like to say anything before we close.
Just thanks for all the questions, I would say, Patricia. And while this is the last question for today, obviously not this year. So don't hesitate to ask again and again. You know, it takes some time to understand the EIT culture and creativity. And we are always patient and happy, you know, to explain how this is being created. And from month to month, It will be more concrete and more lively as we are building structures, staff, operations, programs. For us today, this is really a day of celebration, and I would say thanks to all the colleagues and all our participants here in the room. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
So thank you so much for being here, for staying tuned, and please do not hesitate to contact us in case you have further doubts. We will record it. We have recorded the session. We will upload it soon with updates in the social media so that you are aware. And with this and this thank you from our side, we are ready to wrap it up. Thank you very much and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye.